I don't know if you guys have the free version or the, we bought the professional version because, again, we have 3 licenses in our office that we're using it. So, but it's been, as far as the quality of the sound and the all the other accoutrements, it's been great.
It has been. Well, we still have people filtering in, so.
Sure. Take your time. Got nowhere to go.
Probably in about 10 minutes, we should have the room. If anybody wants to unmute, I think I have it set on mute. If anybody wants to unmute, they push the little microphone on the left. I hear people coming in.
Neil, I thought you were sponsoring the breakfast. What's going on here?
I am. Where's your eggs?
He sponsored my breakfast. Oh,
I did.
Oh, you didn't sponsor everybody. Oh.
Everybody got free breakfast.
I had my coffee and I had my matzah, so at least I don't have to worry about going out and buying toilet paper.
There you go. Hey, David, how are you?
He's
Like
muted.
the airplane. I don't know if you could hear me.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? I love the airplane.
You do? Isn't that cool?
Yes. Hi, Edie.
Hi, guys.
Morning, Edie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we got the message out late, but we still should have a nice little crowd.
Jay Cohn is here.
Jay Cohn is here. I see him somewhere. I see the name. I don't see his picture. That's okay.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you, Jay?
Morning.
I'm doing fine.
What's the matter? You didn't comb your hair, Jay?
No.
What?
No.
Jay's not showing his face.
Literally rolled out of bed.
Did you have a virtual Seder too, Jay? We were all talking about that.
Yeah, my grandkids were going crazy.
Oh, yeah?
Crazy.
Happy holidays, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Luckily, they have each other.
Yes. I don't know who George is, but I'm watching his screen here.
I think I probably should move this to my living room.
Oh, that's nice.
You like that better?
They're both good. It's all good.
How about, let's go to Tel Aviv.
There you go.
How about my backyard?
Nice.
All right, I'm gonna walk. Let's walk down to the beach.
There we go. I've seen that beach a few times.
Okay.
If you're in about 10 minutes, everybody will find their way in. Let me see if I have any unusual texts. Can't get in. Where are you?
Yeah, I wonder if some people went to the wrong meeting room.
Always possible.
How do I update the Zoom program that's on my computer?
How do you do it?
Yeah, how do I do it?
It should prompt you. It's very simple.
When you go on, it's you want to update your software. There's new updates available.
I didn't see anything that said that.
Yeah, I did this morning, and all of a sudden I didn't recognize it.
Yeah, it'll find you. It'll prompt you.
It also does it at the end when you sign off. It
Oh,
asks
yeah?
you for an update, yeah.
So Edie, you're a marketing strategist, writer.
Unmute yourself, Edie. Nobody can hear you. Here we go.
I think you're muted. Yeah, you're still.
Can you hear
There
me?
you go.
There we go.
can.
Now we can.
Here we go. So yes, I do marketing for professional service firms. So lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors primarily.
Sure. Okay. We only have 193 shared connections.
You only have 193 what?
Shared
You and I
connection.
have 193 shared connections.
Yes, that's it.
That's just a small paltry sum.
Yes, we're all connected in some way.
It's remarkable when you think about, and I think part of it is because we're on an island, right? You know, a lot of my colleagues who are across the country, that when we speak to each other, there isn't the same kind of network that's created here where everybody knows each other, because in St. Louis, for example, you can go in 4 different directions generally, if not more. Here, we're all on the same island of 14 miles by 107.
Right.
Yeah, that's a long list of people we know in common. Wow.
Yes. Well, I've heard you speak before at HIA. I used to be a member, but I dropped off a few years ago because too many networking groups.
There's a lot.
Yes.
If you have 3 letters, or in this case 5, but mostly in 3 cases 3 letters, you now have a networking group.
It's true.
Well, it's nice to see you again.
Yes.
And do you publicly admit to knowing Neil Himmelstein?
I do. I know Neil. I know Larry on the line here. I don't know who else I know. Let's see. I think those are the only familiar names that I'm seeing on my end.
Got it.
But I've been to their meetings before.
That's scary.
The plan is to do these weekly?
Yes,
Okay, that's
and
good.
you're gonna be doing next week's meeting.
Right. If you're looking for any kind of particular speakers, let me know, because I know a lot of people.
Okay. Right now, I'm looking for somebody to relieve my stress. Can you come here and do that? I just,
Well, there's a lot of people that are doing those, like a lot of these coaches now are switching gears to like kind of online stress management.
That's
Yeah.
what my wife is doing. She took her practice online.
Okay.
oh, I didn't know she was doing that. That's neat.
She specializes in anxiety, but she does other things as well. But she's a hypnotherapist and a meditation instructor. So
Oh,
She could have fun with this group.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, there's only like 3 or 4 people that I know that wanted to participate that didn't find their way on.
all right, I'm going to check the other meeting and see if they arrived on that one.
Okay.
I'll just grab my phone. I'll be right back.
Now, Neil, you have your own Zoom account that you use for these, or is this?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the Zoom Pro out of necessity, and I find that I'm using it all day long.
Right.
So it's much better connecting with people on Zoom than it is on a phone.
Yes.
At least you get to see them face to face.
Right.
It kills a lot of the I don't want to say lonely, the isolation.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So I think it's very important that we connect. You know, I'm an old-fashioned, press the flesh guy, but so now I have to do it through Zoom.
Right. No, it's I I think it's a good platform.
Yeah, there's some other ones out there that other people have been using. They've been using Uber, and I've seen WhatsApp, and there's another one called Ring Central, and then there's always GoToMeeting. So whatever works.
Right.
Let's see. Tim
Okay.
is in the waiting room. Tim found us. I think Larry Shear wanted to come on. I don't know what happened to him.
Who's the other Tim? We got a Timothy and Tim Kennedy.
I don't know. All right, Rob, we'll get started here right at 8:15. All right?
Ready to go when you are.
Okay. I know some people want to get back to work at 9.
They got to get to the office.
Like Larry Bloom, who's cranking out tax returns and dealing with other stuff.
Haven't done many returns in the last 10 days, mostly helping out with loan applications and just advising clients. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So Larry, quick question. I have a lot of sole proprietors as clients, 1099s.
Yeah.
They file for unemployment the same way anybody else does if they want to?
You're talking unemployment, or you're talking also the PPP loan?
Well, most of them aren't going to get the PPP loan because they're like salespeople, but supposedly 1099s, people like that are supposed to be eligible for the unemployment too this year. Or
Yes, they are. Yeah, for the first time, self-employed people, including 1099 vendors and even owners in a corporation that previously the corporation had to be dissolved in order for an owner to collect. Now they can collect.
So how does that work? Let's say, so I have employees I have clients that have renewal income like I do, okay? And they can go file even though they have money coming in every month, just because they're sitting at home for a month or two? Or?
Well, if you have income coming in, it may impact your ability to file or how much you could ultimately collect.
So there is a way for them to stop those people from doing that.
Again, I haven't filed online, so I don't know what the application process is, but I know that for people that are self-employed and in effect their job has stopped,
Right.
can file. Now, what you fill out on the application is between you and your maker in terms of what's
Right.
coming in.
Okay. It just seemed like a loophole for people, kind of like the exchange, people that don't show a lot of income. You know, somebody makes
Well,
a couple of 100,000 and they're only claiming 50, and now they're saying they're out of work. And it's
well,
working.
they benefited all those years from lower taxes by playing the game. You get
Yeah.
punished now. If you're going to play it straight up, then you'll be rewarded.
Well,
But-
I'm gonna just kind of kick the meeting off and say thank everybody for coming. I know notices came out late. We're going to be doing these every week. I think it's a great way of connecting. I usually like to start off with a joke, but what's going on right now is no joking matter. There's no, we can add levity to the world, but the truth of the matter is we're all suffering in our own ways and have friends and relatives, and I just hope everybody's safe and well. A couple of changes you've probably been to or seen. There's a lot of issues around the KARE Act and the PPP loan and the other loans. That's very big right now. Very popular topic because it's being blasted out there because of circumstances. The insurance world also has changed dramatically in a very short time. Insurance companies now have to allow for 90 days for financial hardship to pay life insurance premiums, annuities, and property casualty. And there's an additional thing that the governor had come out with the Department of Financial Services, which hasn't fully been distributed, where every agent needs to speak to any policyholder that they have by April 13th. I'm going to be doing a brand announcement today and inform them that if they have a financial hardship, they have 90 days to pay their premiums as an edict from the governor. So with that in mind, I think it's great that we have Rob Fishman speaking today. Rob's a friend, tremendous sales trainer, and a tremendous advocate for everybody here. And I think his information is going to be beneficial. So with that, Rob, you can take it away.
Thank you, Neil, for the introduction, for the invitation for me to come to speak to you guys this morning. What I'm hoping to do in the next 45 minutes to an hour is to provide you with a different way of thinking about how you're developing business. There's no question we've been hit with a major change. One of the expressions I use is that change is mandatory, growth is optional. I have a bunch of slides. Some of them are going to be pretty detailed about looking at your business development engine. And there's 4 pistons in that engine. I'm going to address that later on and get into the specifics. Before I do, as we all know, there's a lot of noise going on the internet, and a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of webinars and all sorts of topics now. So I want to help you today with cutting through the clutter and getting you thinking about what you could be doing differently. The major theme for today is about behavioral change. What is it that we're doing differently? Because everything else will come along as we really focus on these elements. I've got a PowerPoint I'm prepared for you guys. I will go through it. You're welcome to stop me at any point. If we've got the time, we certainly, because we've got a smaller group today, is for you to provide some, issues and challenges you're running into. Obviously we know that getting new clients now is a challenge. It's not like it was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So I'm here as an advocate to help the community, to help you guys, and offer any kind of expertise that you may need. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my desktop with you. You guys should be able to see, let's see, just go over here. Can you guys see the screen now? Okay, can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to go through these slides and kind of walk you through what we're going to be doing today. Some of it may seem obvious to you. That's okay. It may seem elementary, but it may get you thinking about doing something different. And I'm sure you and your clients may be going through this period of stress right now. I heard before somebody's spouse is a behavioralist in some way with hypnotherapy. Larry, I think that was your wife, right?
Yes, correct.
My wife, Lisa, is a psychoanalyst. She's practicing a long time. She's doing the same thing now where she's working with her patients virtually or on the phone. But the mindset piece is really about focusing on what we can control. Now, I believe there really are going to be 2 buckets here, bucket B and bucket A. That bucket B bucket is ones that we really have no control over. Obviously the virus and what's happening with it. My son came down with it in London. He's recovering now, but it really beat the daylights out of him for 12 days. So those things, we really can't control that. But I want to talk about what we can control was our reaction to those, to adversity, and managing our emotions as part of that process. I am also going to give you a tool today to help you recognize where you are in the 5 stages of transition, because we all go through this. And even the work that I've seen my wife do with her patients is acknowledging where they are in this transition period. And if in fact that we know where we are, that's the beginning of the process. There are a number of us that have blind spots. We're not aware. Creating the awareness of the issues is really the first step towards improvement. Number 2 is going to talk about what some tactical things you can do at home. It looks as if we're going to be home for a while. So creating our home office atmosphere, if you will, if you're using technology like we're using now, including Zoom, WebEx, the Cisco products, or your GoToMeeting, They're all really good programs. The question is about your ability to master that. And again, I'll give you some tips and tricks. You can ask me questions about the way that we set up my home office here. I'm also going to talk a little bit about your daily routines. Again, some of you seem to be very regimented and disciplined, but maybe some additional things to help avoid the stress that we go through. Then I'm going to get into your approach and how you're dealing with not only your client base, but about new opportunities, using social selling, more than ever about empathy to be displayed. And I've got some stories on that one. And for us to focus on the important things that are going to be those priorities. So let me start here. This is all a mindset thing. The average human mind processes 60,000 thoughts a day. That's pretty much how it works. But by law, not by law like regulation, 72 to 78% of those thoughts tend to be self-limiting. And if we think about adversity striking us, is we tend to, without realizing it or putting any control on it, that we tend to go towards a darker place, right? So if we can focus on the things that we really can control, which is going to be behavioral change, changing our routines, changing the way that we're going about keeping our relationships with our clients even stronger than ever, giving more, being that go-giver. These are things that we can tell you that now more than ever is the time that you want to take a look at it. What I'm going to ask all of you to do right now is to take a blank piece of paper out, and I want you to, on that blank piece of paper, draw a vertical line and a horizontal line. All right, so I got a vertical line, horizontal line. And on the upper left-hand corner, I want you to write the word keep, K-E-E-P, that's up here, okay? On the other side, on the right side, write the word attain, A-T-T-A-I-N. Lower left-hand corner will be the word recapture. And the lower right-hand corner will be the word expand. So again, upper left is keep, upper right is attain, lower left is recapture, lower right is expand. That's an acronym called KARE. So I'm going to get to that later on. And as I go through this, I'm going to ask you to take specific notes in your world, and if you don't mind me saying this, maybe your client's world, if you have a very close relationship with your clients, about how you can improve in those 4 quadrants of your business development engine. So you'll see in the bottom of the slide is about that your situation plus the way you react to it is what the result is. So I'm going to use an animal analogy for, and please don't get offended at what I'm about to say, but there are actually basically 3 types of people in the business world right now. There's turtles, and these are folks that are just got their head in their shell and wait until this thing blows over and popping their head out and trying to resume on their path. The next group, which is probably the most substantial, is the group of, I think in the poultry arena, we talk about chickens and turkeys who are running around, expending a lot of energy and not really having a clear direction. So they're spending a lot of energy doing a lot of things, but not necessarily accomplishing as much as they would like. And the third group are the group of eagles. The eagles are, in my opinion, those who are anticipating a downturn, anticipating that business will not be what they thought it would be, yet they've got their eye on when this does pass. They're anticipating, they're reading articles about the change. I just found an article that was written by 34 thought leaders, and it was their opinion as to what the world will look like after the COVID-19 pandemic eases. And it's not all bad news. It's really going to be quite interesting as to what our planet and what our world are going to look like. And again, it's not all bad, but it's very interesting. So the eagles are those that are really paying attention to those signs. They're reading a lot. They're staying in touch with publications, following really well-known thought leaders to really hear and keep their eye on business development as well as what the planet looks like. So with that, let me move on to my next slide. Let's get into emotions now. Obviously, we tend not to want to deal with this, but it's there. Our reaction, our visceral reaction is for us to panic. Oh my God, my clients are leaving. Oh my God, there's no business. Oh my God, I can't prospect. Oh my God. And our suggestion here is obviously, how do I maintain some calmness here? And there's various ways that people can work on the way that they're feeling. We tend to process those 72 to 78% of negative thoughts of, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to be able to carry on my practice or my business? And what we find is, if we really want to think clearly, that those emotions are just going to zap us, right? And they're going to cloud our judgment ultimately. I call this the FDW, which is fear, doubt, and worry. Is if we have fear, doubt, and worry, again, the question I'm going to ask you is, all right, if that's how I'm feeling, that's my mindset, as opposed to behavioral change. What are some things I can do differently? Many years ago, and I think this happens with everybody in the professional world, we all hit bumps in the road. We all hit batting slumps. We all are not, there are times when we're just not there. We're not on our game. And I, at that time, was working with a coach, and I asked him, I said, look, I really suck right now. I mean, I'm just terrible. And his words to me were that his suggestion was that you need to behave your way out of that funk. And I said, well, you're crazy. What do you mean? Right? It's how I feel. Well, exactly. That there's a rule that we have that it's not how we feel that determines how we act. It's how we act that determines how we feel. So here's the basis of what I'm saying to you today is about just think for a second what you can do differently if you're experiencing any of this emotional stuff right now. And really, most importantly, take care of your head, because without your head being level, it's going to be a real big challenge for you. Here are the 5 stages. I'm going to walk you through these. In terms of your mindset, when anything happens as a jolt to the system, including COVID-19, there's a shock. Like it comes out of nowhere, or we might have known about it, or we might have anticipated. But when something happens, this is the essence of change right in front of you. This is now shock. What happens as an initial reaction is tying it back to the past. That's not what I'm used to experiencing. That can't be. And that leads to the second stage of denial. And denial now is all about that can't possibly be. What tends to happen as a natural result of that is this natural resistance to need to have to change. For example, I know of some clients of mine that are still picking up the phone and making prospecting calls, and their prospects are saying, are you nuts? Why are you calling? We're busy laying off staff and putting out fire. I can't talk to you right now. Like, how dare you call? But they're resistant to the change they need to make right now. The next is, the big toe in the water is exploration. Meaning this is where people come to the realization that it doesn't look like it's going to go back. I think I've got to make some changes myself. And that's that period of exploration and learning more, and maybe going into webinars, or maybe reading books, or exploring new things about your business and your profession that you might be better at in order to adapt to this. Hey, look, you guys showed up today for one of these weekly sessions with this group with NAFA, and that might be another example of exploration. I want to hear what experts are saying, and then I can make my own opinions based on some expertise of someone else, be it in business development or sales or in marketing. There's a lot of good resources out there. And the last stage is around commitment. That is really the point where, hey, look, I know I've got to make the change. I might need to develop mastery in this area, and now I'm committed to the change. So what I want you to do is, for yourselves right now, is see where you are. In other words, if you are truly in an exploration stage, some of you might be in resistance stage right now, that you're frustrated because things aren't what they used to be. And that's where we get into trouble, and that does nothing but hurt us. So we want to move towards that commitment stage. So where are you? Where do you think your clients are? Where are your peers? But I will talk about the difference between a growth zone versus comfort zone. And a number of us, and we've seen this for many, many years, we hit a comfort zone, we hit a stride, we're doing okay, business is coming in, life's pretty good, doing okay. And there is a difference between that comfort zone now and now getting into growth zone, because the opposite side of comfort zone is what we call panic zone. And panic zone is going to be in that denial or resistance area. So again, this is going to take time. It's a gradual thing. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do right now is to jot down, because we got a small group, if you feel open to it, I'm happy to answer any questions or give you some suggestions. But what might be some current issues and challenges regarding your business right now? and what might be some ways that you're adapting to that change and best practices. Look, you don't have to answer the second one. I don't expect, unless you have a genius attack you want to share with the group. But if you want some suggestions about what common challenges you're having now, I'm happy to answer them. So let's take 60 seconds, jot down what you think of some of your current issues. I'll write them down here if you want to talk about it. And then we can talk about how to adapt to the change. So go ahead.
Rob, one of the biggest challenges that we're addressing, and we're addressing it today, is becoming virtual and transforming our former way of doing business to today.
Yeah.
And the quicker we embrace it, the quicker we work at it, the better we're going to be at it. And I think just doing this seminar here is our first one for the LIFPN, and the second one that I've really done on a large group scale. And I can tell you, every one we do, it's better.
Right.
Because we're embracing it. So
I would agree with Neil. And what's interesting about, I thought I would have been the one in my firm that had the most difficulty adapting to the change. I'm a little technologically challenged, but after the first day working, when I worked at home for 2 weeks when I first started to quarantine myself. It became rather easy, and I became very comfortable with it. And I'm convinced that our whole office could be virtual for the most part. Basically, everybody is working from home. The biggest issue we face is our clients, not us. We still have some clients that are old school that are sending us information by paper, which means somebody has to be in the office to scan it. If everybody uploaded to our portal or emailed it to us by secure email, nobody has to be here. But because some of our clients haven't adapted technology, I have to keep an administrative person here, which potentially is risking her safety and well-being, so that she could scan the data so that my staff who are working wherever they live can, use the data to do whatever they have to do.
There's a business out there of someone directing mail to a post office box who then turns it into electronic delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, however, I'm dealing with sensitive personal data.
The lawyers will handle that some way.
Well, but again, I don't want people outside my environment having access to clients' financial information, driver's licenses, social security numbers, and things like that. Yeah. So
certainly an issue.
Which is one reason why we don't outsource any of our work, because I need to know who's touching and handling this data, because a rogue person could really take my whole business down.
Yeah.
So, what's interesting about this, Larry, is this is an example of what I was talking about earlier about, is that a bucket B conversation? Is there anything we have control over? And the answer is, well, we might, because I could tell you that there are some entrepreneurs right now that are working on exactly that problem. And that it will be maybe weeks or months before we see a rollout of a product or a service that will be available for exactly this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because, again, those thought leaders, we want to pay attention to what they're thinking. They're thinking about, well, they see tremendous opportunity here. You are absolutely spot on. For me to get out of the paper business and have people upload to a portal, is it that they're not willing to do it, or is it that they're not able to do it? Because there's a difference there between being willing or able.
Combination of both, I'm sure.
Okay. So again, that's some things I could ask myself, well, how can I facilitate this process? Could I give some informational videos that I could make up for my clients and for them to click on the link, for them to learn how to do it? Follow these easy steps?
We do that. We have a portal, which is the easiest way to submit us information. It's basically drop and drag, cut and click. And I have an administrator who could be reached by phone and walk you through it. Clients just have to be willing to do it. There are some people that haven't adapted. There are some people that everything's electronic.
So in other words,
their submission to us, but our submission to them.
Okay. So in other words,
what do you do?
You have training
CPA
videos
firm.
done? Larry, you have training videos done already?
We don't have training videos, no.
Okay. All right. In other words, that's something that, and I'm sure that you're going to see more and more companies doing that.
Right.
That will customize. You could be you. Hey, here's the way to walk through it. So people ask you, like, hey, click on this link and watch the video, rather than your administrator going through it time after time after time. Neil, to your point about the virtual transformation, absolutely. More and more clients are going to be going remote, and there's going to be less if you think about hotels and travel. Yeah, it may change for a while. We don't know how long, but the decision is about your appearance virtually is really our only connection at this point. Obviously, the clients we have versus the clients we're looking to get, it's putting our best foot forward. I will cover that too. Anybody else have any other issues, or I haven't heard from other folks?
I've been fortunate because I work from home a lot more than I go into my office, because I really don't have a need to go into my office. I save the 20 minutes commute each way every day.
Right.
I've worked from home a lot most of my life, so I've got that discipline down pat. But a lot of my business has been done virtually. I do a lot of Medicare as well as life insurance. But one of the things that I've discovered during the quarantine, as Neil can attest to, is finding different products for different types of clients that maybe I've always had, but I never realized I had them for these products. So it's just about, looking outside the box, or reaching outside your box, maybe even your comfort zone, because you're making so many more phone calls now. Now, if you're not talking to somebody on the phone, you're not seeing them. We always have that, you got to touch people 12 times a year in your business, or however the means might be, by an email, or whatever, or a phone call for birthdays. You find you're doing it a lot more when you work virtually, and I think that's a good thing for most people. You just have to embrace it. People are looking for people to talk to.
I'm finding that instead of emailing, I'm picking up the phone, even if it's just a minor thing, just to touch people a little bit more.
Yeah,
right, you might send them an email, but you follow up with a phone call always, because you want to have, that's your contact.
Sure. Okay, and I'm definitely going to cover that. All right, let me move on for now. I want to help you in understanding how to pinpoint the issues and challenges that we have. And this is really, if you think about success, here's the blueprint. These are areas that whenever we look at gaps, some of them may be behavioral based, maybe somebody mindset, and some may be employing a different type of technique now that the world has changed. So the one on the top is all about mindset or attitude. You'll see that yourself up at the top of that, which is really around, taking care of your mind and taking care of ourselves, that we're getting enough rest and sleep. But also our belief in the market that we're in, and also our own companies or firms. It's all about that being, of that healthy mindset. I'm not talking about enthusiasm. I'm talking about realistically that we've got our healthy mindset. This is really the basis for, a good pattern of business development. The left side is all about behavior, around goals, plan, and actions. Goals, I've learned that between 3 and 5% of people walking the planet have a written plan, written goals, and most people just don't. It's either in their head or they don't have them. But a plan to get there, and the ability to fine-tune that plan, is really what I'm going to talk about now. Especially when we go to those 4 boxes that I talked about earlier, is putting a plan in place, because again, I will take less pressure. I'll take more pressure off myself if I have a plan to follow versus no plan at all. And then having the discipline, obviously, and the vitality to do it. The lower right-hand side are all techniques in business development. Again, I'm not going to spend so much time on that today because I want to hit the high points with you. But as you can see, there's a lot of specific business development techniques that are used. So let me give you some examples if you want to talk about that virtual meeting at home and how to get yourself set up. That's a picture of the office that I'm actually working at right now, that I'm on video with you right now. I've got 2 external monitors I use. One PowerPoint's off to my left. I'm looking right at the camera. And I've got obviously an iPad next to me and a full large screen on the other side. So obviously we want to make it comfortable, space permitting. My 30-year-old younger son that lives in San Francisco lives in a 600 square foot apartment with his girlfriend / fiance. And they managed to put on their headphones and they work in different corners of the apartment. and that's their work environment. So whatever you can do, try to create comfort, whichever way you possibly can if you are continuing to work at home. Obviously, boundaries. I was on the Zoom video yesterday with a friend of mine, and she's got 2 little kids, and the kids are jumping in her lap, and obviously they want mommy. But again, it's a challenge to find boundaries. It's very cute, but I can imagine that on some calls she would want to have that professional side. We try to avoid distractions. It's very easy to do that if we're working at home, is to allow all the home stuff, and it kind of filters into each other. One thing that it's been helpful for me, maybe helpful for you, is to really create a pattern and a routine so that, you get up in the morning, you go to your home office, you're working from your home office. At the end of the day, leave your home office and let, your home life begins. So we talk about technology. I can give you some suggestions on using Zoom, for example. If I could be so bold, can I make some comments that might be helpful to you? One is the type of lighting that you'll see that I'm using. It's Amazon.com. I think they're like $40 a light, and they're actually photographer's lights. It's a reverse umbrella with a bulb in it. It's very inexpensive, but in order for people to see you, a couple of you, if you notice your image on Zoom, is that I don't quite see your face. And so you want to either put a light on you so that we can see each other. Again, if you're working with clients or looking for prospects and you're having these types of conversations, putting your best foot forward would mean that your lighting is really showing yourself pretty well. The background behind me is a green screen. So again, very inexpensive for you to get a green screen. What's great about it, because if you're using Zoom, I think it's a professional side. Your company logo might be behind you. It's just a pretty cool additional thing for you to do. If I could be so bold also, your camera should be your eye level. For some of you, I'm looking up your nose. And by the way, you have nice nostrils. But some, the camera's like way up here. Some I'm looking over this way. So if we think about that interpersonal connection, if I was sitting in your office, literally, we wouldn't be having a conversation if I was looking over here. I'd want it to be eye to eye on the level. By the way, in the sales world, we call this equal level stature. In other words, if I'm eyeball to eyeball, I want it to be directly on the same level, especially if you're looking for and having conversations with prospects. Does that make some sense? So I'm a big fan of video conferencing. For those of you that are on the phone, we're making some changes in our training center. For example, for some of our programs, it's now mandatory. If you're not on camera, you cannot come to the meeting. And again, I'm not saying this to make anybody uncomfortable. There may be a reason why you're on the phone. But to think about the full teleconferencing experience is having both sides being able to see each other. When it's on the phone, it's a challenge. And again, for some that are on the phone, they may be doing multiple things and just listening in, and we're not really truly getting the full benefit of what's being said. Okay, that makes some sense. Body language and tonality, self-explanatory. Again, I want to be very clear about where I'm looking. I'm looking at the camera so you can see my eyes. There's no doubt it's going to require more discipline for you to work from home. Obviously, I'm happy to report that I did shower this morning and I shaved and I'm dressing professionally. I will share that I'm wearing a pair of jeans and I don't have any shoes on right now, pair of socks. But schedule your day. Most people who have a lot of time, and a number of you are very, very busy, that's great. But put some objectives on there. An A bucket or an A, B, and C list of priorities that you want to do. Great time to work on those long-term things you've been hoping to get to. Put them on your schedule. Very important for everybody here, get up during the course of the day. I live in a condo development, and this is the lower level that I'm in right now. My wife's seeing patients virtually upstairs. That I'll get up and just go for a walk. And I'm hoping everybody here just get out of the office and go outside. Stay away from people, but certainly get up and move during the course of the day. And most importantly, use the system. So here's now, I want to get into the real nitty gritty of your business. Again, now's the time for you to go through your client list. When we talk about, keeping business along, one part of this is going to be avoiding the leaky bucket, which is looking at your client relationships now and going one by one. And a more effective way now is to categorize them. Most people categorize their clients in various ways. revenue, geographic or territorial. It may be type of business, SIC code. There's different ways that we can, some use an animal analogy based on a small client, might be a squirrel or a rabbit, a deer size, maybe this company size, and vice versa for the large ones. But I want to develop a strategy for each one of the groups of my clients right now, especially now, and proactively contacting your customers. On the next slide, I'm going to walk you through that KARE document so that I can give you some suggestions as to what you can do more effectively. So let's get started. So if you're going to plan your accounts, let's handle with KARE. Let me go through each one of these and walk you through it. On the Keep, upper left-hand side, you have clients. We don't know how secure the relationship is. We hope it is, but I want to give you some information here about your client retention factors. There are 16 separate client retention factors that you can look through. I'm going to give you a couple of examples now. You can jot them down about ways that you can measure if you are at risk of losing a client. Now, especially in this environment, show of hands, who here has recently lost a client? Nobody. All right. Well, Neil, I guess I'm done. Nobody's lost any clients. That's amazing. Wow.
Well, sometimes you fire clients.
Okay. So let me go through some of these. Again, it may not be important for you guys. It sounds to me that you've got your clients, you're solid, no issue at all. So just in case you do or find that you may be at risk with a client, this is a way that you can have an insurance policy on keeping that client around longer. One of them is their perspective of your delivery of value. Again, their perspective, that's what matters, of your delivery value. How easy it is to communicate with that client. How easy or reachable are you, and how reachable are you? What is your relationship with the high executive levels at the client? Some of you may be working with business owners. Some of you may be working with folks that are on the secondary level. So I want to check and see what is my access to the top people there, my high executive levels. Your relevance is another one. As we know, we have a saying, which is that your best client or customer is someone else's best prospect. And this is all day long. There's a lot of noise going out, as I said earlier, for people vying to get your client from you and getting it for them. So our relevance in that account is going to be a key piece here. Varieties of the products or services that you offer is another important part. I'll give you a couple of other examples here. Obviously, your delivery performance. If you were to ask them how you've performed, what would they say? Would they be giving you very high marks? Or might there be an opportunity for you to improve it because they're giving you feedback? Your understanding of their world is another important client retention factor. When people get the sense that, yeah, you know what, they don't really seem to be on top of what's going on, and recent examples of the CARES Act and all the application processes for some professionals. Overall, their satisfaction with your performance and the trust level, as well as what I think is very critically important today, is how dependent are they on you? And this really speaks to the different levels between a vendor mindset to a business partner mindset to a trusted advisor mindset. We all would like to think of ourselves as trusted advisors for clients and customers, yet we may not necessarily walk the walk. We may be talking the talk, but necessarily that means is how dependent are they for us? Are we the quarterback for their business? Do they turn to us as that strategic visionary advisor? Moving on, if their phone rings, it's good, meaning you're calling them. I had a conversation with another group I was speaking in front of, and one of the people said, yeah, you just got to call them. You just got to pick up the phone and call them, right? Say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I added to that by saying, yeah, that's great. That's what everybody's doing. But what will you do differently? In other words, am I really establishing a reason why I'm picking up the phone to call them? And what could I possibly give them or offer them that will be helpful for them? And that's something that you may want to give some thought to now. Again, if you think about that client relationship, again, that's the backbone of your business now. Keeping them on is going to be an important element here. But what can you do to further build value and help them? If your phone rings before theirs does, not so good. In other words, they may be calling to say, hey, listen, I know it has not been an issue for anybody here on this call today. It's been for several other people where they've had clients say, listen, we got to cut expenses. I got to cut you back. Or I need to cut the fee that I'm paying you, those kinds of things. I put down about exceeding expectations. Absolutely. It's not just meeting expectations. It's going above and beyond, especially now. I want to find ways that I truly am engaged and I know their world and I know some things that I can do to truly help them. I put down credibility because in this world of prospecting now, there's a tendency for us to do the same old, which is very me focused, a salesperson's focused, or business development focused. Like, here's what we do. For example, I would challenge all of you to look at your LinkedIn profiles now, look at your summary page, and see how many times you mention the word I, me, mine, we, or us, as opposed to being client focused. Your messaging. Credibility is all about sounding in the voice of the customer, sounding in the voice of the client. So I want to get out of the I'm here to help and I'm here to develop business, as opposed to you, your world, what you're going through, your industry, your market. So that's what I call credibility, which is saying something seemingly not in your best interest before explaining your mission. So that's all about the keep area. You may now look at your process for keep accounts and give yourselves a score. How good a job are you doing at keeping clients? Nobody raised their hand? That's great. That means that you've got very high scores and keep it up. Good job. Let's move over to attain. Attain. First, seek to help. There are a lot of books written on this topic. Being the Go-Giver, for example. Before I even engage, I just did a session on LinkedIn for a webinar on Monday or Tuesday. And that part about LinkedIn is the ability to connect. Neil, if it's some future date you want me to do a session on LinkedIn, I'm happy to come back. There's a lot of tools that you can use on LinkedIn for prospecting. But first and foremost is, I don't know if this has happened to anybody, that you're on LinkedIn and somebody looks to connect with you and you connect with them and they start selling you stuff, is the biggest turnoff, right? So in other words, what is my process to engage with people, but stop selling, especially now? Now you're thinking, Rob, what's wrong with you? Are you high, right? And how could I stop selling? Well, it's true. And my sales approach is going to radically change now because people are on guard. So the second bullet is about, am I putting my best foot forward, not only on camera, but when I open my mouth to speak? Have I mastered all the tools and tactics for me to get into deeper conversations with prospective clients? Have I mastered my referrals process and getting introductions from people? Again, that's some of the ways that we do a sort of a checklist about, do I really have all my skills down pat? Do I feel there's an area that I can improve? Doing the behavior is providing a series of actions that you can take, whether using LinkedIn, using the phone, calling clients and getting recommendations and referrals, are several ways. We do not suggest you rely on one. We suggest at least 3 different behaviors. And then from there, you can measure your level of comfort and your level of acuity at it to determine if you need to work on something. Again, we're from the world of giving first. In other words, this is like, for example, this webinar is, you'll notice I'm giving you a lot of information as if you were a client of mine right now. This is not like I'm selling anything today, is I'm giving first. It's kind of the culture that we want to bring forward. If you look at the emails you've gotten over the past 2 weeks, take a look at the ones that you probably hit the delete button. But the ones that you save, why did you save that? Was there some perceived value? That's the kind of approach we want to have here. If you see prospects' first impression is all that matters. And I put down vendor, business partner, or trusted advisor, because what their impression is of your approach. If you're looking for new clients now, show of hands, who here is looking for new clients?
So indirectly, I think everybody always is. But
always, yeah.
But right now, that's not our focus.
Exactly. And that's where I'm saying this is where most people are looking at keep, and I'll go to the next one in a second. Let's move on to recapture. Recapture is people, for some reason, that are no longer active, whether they haven't bought from you, whether they're a client that's now disengaged, whether they're working with your competitor, does not matter. They are considered a recapture opportunity. From here, the suggestion is to recontact former clients. For example, one of the things we've done at our company is we have reached out to former clients and we've invited them back for 9 weeks of training. No strings attached. And what will probably happen is most of them will go through the 9-week program and say, thanks, it was a great refresher. We'll stay in touch with each other. Some may come to the realization that they need some additional help and may continue to work with us. That's okay too. So the reconnect phase and re-engage, and I put the word wait with an exclamation point because we want to be very careful to now start pitching business. Again, everybody's very hypersensitive. I'm aware of the bait and switch. We're aware of the bait and switch. Wait, hey a minute. This just happened to me, by the way. For some reason, my wife and I moved into this condo development and I didn't get HBO or Showtime. I mean, most of you have it. So we get this ad that now you get this 48 hours for HBO. I'm like, all right, we'll take it. And I went to click to connect on cable and I get this special screen, buy now. What? Like, what do you mean buy now? I thought it was free. Oh, so now I have to, now it's going to, and now I started to get this panic, right? Look, I could well afford it, but I'm thinking, wow, all of a sudden it's like, it's free, but it's not. So it almost got my guard up. Like this cognitive dissonance thing happened to me. So I don't want to do that with a recapture opportunity. It's going to be a reconnection first. Forget what you're selling, forget what you're prospecting for. Offer to help them in anything. It's a re-engagement. You'll notice the third bullet is about context. Context is about why we originally started working together many years ago, could have been 6 months ago. Hey, what were some of the situations that caused us to work together? All right, that's my lifeline to the past. I am going to be having a lot of humility, not arrogance, when I contact folks that we've worked with before. Presumably, all of you who have lost clients or don't have clients that are no longer working with you that did in the past, I would imagine that you ended the relationship on fairly good terms. We're hoping that you did. Even if you didn't, and it's a mistake we might have made, this is a time for us to have a little slice of humble pie. Stay on top of market news. It's a great way to approach people that reconnect with in their industry. If you're subscribing, LinkedIn has great information in LinkedIn Navigator for you to get market spotlight news. You can share information with them. Hey, thought of you, sending you this article, hope all is well. It starts it by giving something first. Let me go to the last one here, which is about expand. And again, this may not be as easy to do because if you think about this, this is a client that is already a keep, but there may be more business opportunities there as well. So again, I'm going to provide additional insight and information. I might look if there's opportunity itself and I bring up that conversation with an existing client. It may lead to more opportunity. It may lead to more billable hours. It might lead to more products or services. Again, I want to be very tactful. And you'll notice that I put planning in there, which is all part of a well-executed pre-call plan. A pre-call plan is before you pick up that phone is what are the 5 steps I need to go through for me to have a mind map. Whenever I work with teams all over the world, one of the first things is before you pick up that phone, I want you to ask yourselves these questions. 1, what is the real objective of that call? Why are you calling them? Number 2, what are some questions you want to ask when you engage? What are some questions they're going to ask you? And how will you respond to that? And another question might be, and we call this in Sandler world, an upfront contract. An upfront agreement is setting mutual expectations and agenda at the beginning of a phone call. So that's all about you, your value proposition, what you offer, bringing to the table your professional knowledge, any additional offerings you have. There may be some time-based offers. Again, I don't want to be sales here at all, that they must perceive that there's tremendous value here. Okay. Let me give you some good news. Good news is that success can be a process. What I mean by that is that it is a process of working discovery to find something that's repeatable that works, and that's behavioral based. It's got to have some level of consistency because now is the time when it's going to be really tried and true. Does it hold up, especially now? This is a home in Russia. It's actually upside down. And if you turn your head upside down, you'll see it's right side up. But it's really all about us taking a new perspective, how we see the world. And with that, let me walk you through this, because this is kind of how the brain works. Let me give you an example. We find that beliefs is what rules us. You may have beliefs about me, you may have beliefs about this session, you may have beliefs about Neil. I mean, we all have beliefs about Neil, right? But what happens here as a result of the beliefs is that leads us to judge. We form our own judgments based on our belief system. Now, I'm bringing this up for a reason, because of helping you with behavioral change. For example, let me give you an example of this model. Let's say that I am a telephone prospecting dude. So my belief is nobody wants to talk to me. I'm calling, everybody's hassled. People are mad at me when I call. I'm interrupting their day. Cold calls don't work. People don't call you back. You leave voicemails after voicemails after voicemails. Gatekeepers shut me down. So my judgment is, jury has found the defendant guilty on all counts. Judge, tried and true, doesn't work. I'm telling you, I have conviction that cold calls don't work. So what actions do I take? None. I'm not picking up the phone. I may try LinkedIn, I may do other things, but I'm not really truly picking up the phone. So what results do I get? Not good. So the question here is, in order for me to make changes, what needs to change first? And here's the hint. It's not how we feel that determines how we act. It's how we act that determines how we feel. Most people
Say that again?
It's not how we act that determines how we feel. No, it's not how we feel that determines how we act. It's how we act that determines how we feel. In other words, that's me saying, I don't really have it today. I'll call new clients tomorrow. As opposed to, I have the discipline, guts, and vitality for me to take the actions no matter how I feel. So in other words, most people tend to look at beliefs. Well, you have to change your beliefs. And I challenge that. I look at actions. Because again, if I go back to that cold caller, and that cold caller's, hey, hi, this is Rob from ABC Company. Do you mind if I tell you about our new offerings now? Probably not going to work. As opposed to, oh, hi, this is Rob. Listen, this is a sales call. You want to hang up now? Or if you want to give me 28 seconds to tell you why I'm calling, you can decide if you want to talk further. Fair? So that might mean that the way we're changing, what we're doing differently might lead to a different result, which might lead to the different way that I'm thinking. I might be going in the direction of opportunity versus limitation. It's sort of that character from Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore, you know, everything's negative and doesn't work. So let's get into focus on helping, not selling. For those of you that are looking for how you can sell in uncertain times. Mr. Rogers said it best, look for the helpers. You'll always find people who are helping. Be the go-giver. Be the one that is giving out content, information, white papers, extra time. Example, I've got a client that is based in Israel. I've been working with their team for 8 years. And I called up one of the teams I'm not currently working with in Singapore, in APAC. And I said, you guys have been clients for years. I'd like to help train that APAC team, no additional cost, right? Now, in other words, what did it do? So it solidified the relationship with the client even more because their perceived value just went up exponentially. It's the same thing I ask of you also. And what can you do to help your clients? What can you do to be perceived as a helper in your world? And get creative with those solutions. And that's a great conversation if you have colleagues, if you've got business partners. That's a great conversation for you to have. Go down the list. What are some things we can do for this client? How can we really, truly help them? And it might mean a little bit of an investment, whether time, resources, or money. That's okay. Think about that. So again, if I can show empathy, now more than ever, we call this bonding and rapport. It is times 10, folks. In other words, one mistake that I've heard recently from a client sales team is they're calling and getting right into business. No, 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 no. This is a time to take a step back and say, hey, how has this impacted you? How are you doing? How are you holding up? Some people want to have the opportunity to share their story. Some may not. That's okay. I'm not going to get a cookie cutter approach, but I'd like to ask people that question. How are you doing? So let's make the discussion about them up front. Number of books written on this topic. I'm going to show active listening. I am going to ask them questions. I will be as nurturing as I can to show that I genuinely care about them, and I do. You know, obviously they've got their own plight that they're going through, and anything I can do to help them, I'll do my best. If I can make a suggestion on technique, and I'm going to be wrapping it up in a couple of minutes, is there's a technique called third-party stories. And what that means is, instead of it being about you and me, I might use a reference to another business leader I've spoken to, some companies I've been speaking to recently. Is a great credibility builder and takes the pressure off it sounding any degree of salesy. So this slide's really about priorities. You probably have things on your desk right now that are important. You have things that are not as important, and then you have things that are urgent. If you have a pile of urgent and important, then the challenge here is about learning to be more disciplined. I had an administrative assistant many years ago who taught me this trick, and she called it the 4 Ds. Do, delete, defer, and delegate. Do, delete, defer, and delegate. I thought, and she said, Rob, a piece of paper should never touch your hands more than once. So what? You're crazy. She said, no. Do, delete, defer, delegate. And now it's through email or through Teams or Slack or any of the technology you're using now. And by the way, if you think about the changes now, take a look at what's happening with cloud computing, what's happening now with shared documents. I mean, it is unbelievable what's happening now in how things are becoming more automated. But even in your email box, you can take a look and see how many hundreds of emails you have in your box right now. Do, delete, defer, delegate. Those are the 4. If I can be so bold, I want to read you a quote. But before that, it's one of those times where we tend to work in forward motion. You know, what's the next thing that has to happen? And sometimes we don't turn around to see where we've come from. When you go outside today to take that walk, can you all do me a favor and take a moment or take 2 moments and just think about gratitude? What are you and who are you grateful for in your world? And can you take a moment to show that you are grateful for what you have? Again, it's one of those things about the human side here. This is a quote, Teddy Roosevelt. It's rather long, but I want to read you the last part of it because I think it really speaks to him as a leader, but also about the ability for us to dare greatly. In any times of adversity, it's getting in the game and doing the behavior, which is the theme of today's talk. I will read you the quote. I apologize in advance. You know, this was written when it was just he, as opposed to she or he and she or they. So I apologize in advance for the language. I do not want to be seen as a male chauvinist. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled. Credit belongs to the man who really was in the arena, his face marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs to come short and short again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. It is the man who actually strives to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasm and knows the great devotion, who spends himself on a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of great achievement. Now, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and cruel souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And we think about that last quote is really all about the essence of comfort zone. Those cold and cruel souls who know neither victory nor defeat are the turtles. They put their head in their shells and they're waiting it out. They're not taking the risks. They're not taking the educated risks and doing more. Having the pre-call plan, having that sense of learning more about their clients and how they could be more of a resource for them, building value, having the ability to ask for introductions to other people, all comes from daring greatly. So I'm hoping that you do. And please understand that as part of an office that we run for many, many years, Rich Isaac is my business partner. We're the 2 owners of the franchise and our team. We're here to help out. I appreciate that Neil invited me in today to do this. You're welcome to reach out to us for anything that you might need. I'm happy to invite you guys. If you want to crash a class, you can do that as well. You can just send me an email, which is rob.fishman@sandler.com and rob.fishman@sandler.com. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open up for any questions or any takeaways, any feedback. Was it in fact the worst thing you've ever seen? So I'm going to hand it back to Neil.
Larry, you wanted to ask a question or say?
Well, I was going to say thank you, Rob, for your time this morning. Could
Sure.
you make your PowerPoint available for all of us, or?
Sure.
I have this whole meeting being recorded,
Okay.
and everyone's going to get a copy of it. And after this meeting, we're going to send an email to everybody to get their input and feedback and give you Rob's information if you should want to use him for your office or whatever. And I have to say, Rob, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The only thing I can add to one of the things that I've aggressively done is, if you're worried about internet security and securing documents and doing these different things, reach out to experts in different fields and get yourself situated, because now is the time. Now is the time to gin up all those things that you may have a hole in your operation. My big fear was going from to remote.
Mhm.
Okay, how am I going to work with my staff remote? How's my staff going to work with me remote? Are they saving documents correctly? Are they exposing my client base to the world? So very key point you brought up, Larry, about doing that. And the other thing is training people. That was a great point, Rob. And what Larry's doing is training people to use the tools that you have set out for them. Whether, I keep a quoting engine on my website.
Mhm.
Yet all day long, people are asking me for quotes. And I could do a better job of training them to say, hey, just click this button and click this button, and now you know the quote for a basic quote. But just general stuff like that. Just, for everybody, they're in different fields. Tim, I know you're doing mortgages. Larry, you're an attorney. Larry Bloom, we have a lot of accountants on board. So I think those are the kind of things that have been helpful. So.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jim Duffy. I'm new to the group, courtesy of Tim Kennedy. It was very informative. And the Sandler training, I'm going to go take a look at for my own clients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. Edie's going to be on our next meeting and talk about marketing, digital marketing, and some other great things. She's an expert for attorneys and accountants in what she does. And again, I can't thank you enough for being here. And listen, everybody, please stay safe and keep your chin up and keep smiling. Because
Thanks,
if you
guys.
don't,
Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, Tim, one quick question for you. Are you using the Charles Barkley approach here? Tie, jacket, and underwear underneath, or what?
He's got boxes underneath that.
yeah.
You don't want him standing up.
No, no,
No.
Oh, it's all an act. It's all an act.
It's all good.
You look good.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to conclude.
Stay safe.
Good day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.